So I'm just going to delve right in. My share is called Quest for Happiness. And I felt it was very important to talk about this because all of us, I feel, always want happiness in our life. And most of our lives we spend searching for happiness, but we're always looking for it in the wrong places. Sometimes it's in pursuit of capital gains, and sometimes in happy relationships or marriages, new adventures, possibly a new apartment. I don't know if y'all are, but I'm looking to move. But we all have something, and you name it, everybody does. So we've been taught that this is the way to find it. This is Western society. We've been taught that this is the way to find it through things outside of our own world, okay, or our own experiences. So because we get so wrapped up in this quest for what will make us happy, we forget about what we have been in possession of the whole time. A lot of us easily fall into the trap of thinking, I was happy until XYZ happened, and if XYZ happened, then I might be a happier person. And I'm in no way trivializing what each of us has gone through in our lives. I would like to make a point that everyone goes through things and hardships, but they are all appropriately given to us by HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And we wouldn't be the people that we are today without them. On a side note, this talk does not cover chemical imbalances, nor would I ever want to minimize the importance of medical help when needed. So without any further ado, let's go further and discover our happiness within together, and maybe we can understand at least where to start. Okay? So as Pirkei Avos teaches, it is vital to give credit where credit is due. Majority of what I will be speaking about today will be from Faith and Trust, based on the teachings of the Chazon Ish, and the Gateway to Happiness by Rabbi Zelig Pliskin. And he has many works that I highly recommend. And I would like for us all, for just a few moments, to think about what we're grateful for. Whether it's something that happened today or in general, but at least have one thing in your mind. Okay? Now let's delve in a little bit further. Hashem, in all of his wisdom, created us with the ability to think and have a brain. But what would that brain be if we didn't have eyes to help us to understand the world, or mouths to communicate with, or ears to hear each other with? What good is all of that if we are not able to move? So Hashem created us with limbs, with hands and fingers and feet, and toes to allow us to move and touch and feel. What good are all of those things if we were like lifeless bodies? So Hashem breathed life into us. And what good would be able to think if we couldn't and move properly, if we couldn't function properly? So Hashem gave us blood and veins and organs, and bones, so all working perfectly in unison so that we can do that. And what would all these beautiful gifts of life be without the ability to ensure that our lives and a part of ourselves is not in the future? So Hashem gave us the ability to procreate. And if we think about all of these intricacies, our lives would be missing something without one of them, even one of them. The same could be said about every aspect of Hashem's creations. This is by the Chazon Ish, by the way. And really, our sense of habit is what dulls the ability to see these things and how much we have to be happy and grateful for. From Devarim, you shall rejoice with all the good that the Almighty has given you. Being happy is a mitzvah, blatantly said stated in the Torah. And why is it that Hashem needs to state this in the Torah? I mean, if you really think about it, those people who seem the most happy also seem to have very little, and those with an abundance seem to be the saddest. We learn in Koheles, he who has 100 wants 200. And Rabbi Zoma from Pirkei Avos says, who is rich? He who rejoices in his portion. Rabbi Pliskin, in his book Gateway to Happiness, describes this mitzvah, this obligation, in 3 facets. Happiness is an obligation. The first one is happiness is an obligation to ourselves. Many of us have heard or have even known individuals who have stories that being happy brings or bringing joy has helped them through an illness. And since the Torah prohibits us from endangering ourselves, therefore we have an obligation to avoid unnecessarily falling ill. And this is from the Mishnah Berurah. There have been studies in Harvard University, the University of Pennsylvania, and a university in London that have been replicated that show that happiness actually boosts our immune systems and helps us be healthier. Okay, number 2. Happiness is an obligation in regards to our relationships. When you're upset or tired, we tend to fall into the trap of exuding that feeling to everybody. And in contrast, when we smile, we bring light and happiness to everybody. So much, this is so, it's felt so strongly that even infants who barely understand any communication can recognize it. And don't we owe it to our loved ones who we cherish to bring forth the latter? Our obligation, lastly, is to Hashem, and it is diminished when we are unhappy. The Baal Shem Tov states, the Almighty has sent you into this world on an appointed errand. It is His will that you accomplish your errand in a state of joy. Sadness implies an unwillingness on your part. Okay, that was a lot to handle, guys. And now that I've convinced you of how important it is and that it is an obligation, I would like for you to understand that I'm not here to say, you must be happy. Okay, but it's quite the opposite. I'm really just trying to inspire us to grab this conquest by the horns and try and delve further and really make our lives fuller with happiness. Okay, so just as anything in life is worth just as anything in life that's worth it, it takes work. And the mere fact that happiness is an obligation, this proves to us that it is by and large in our hands. Hashem would not have obligated us to be happy if he didn't think we could do it. So I would like us to go further for some everyday practical tips on how to remind ourselves that we're blessed and how to bring us towards a desired state of being happy. Thank you, Zavi Goodwin, for making a mind map for us. Unfortunately, with putting together dinner and laundry and kids, I was unable to.
I can share my screen.
That would be so amazing. Thank you, Rabbi Rosenberg. Rabbi Rosenberg has offered to laminate this so we can put it on our fridges and see it every day with a small donation to Young Israel, which we all know we need. So let's delve into it. Number 1 is appreciating what you have.
Shivi, do you see it? Give me a thumbs up.
Good. Okay, so most importantly, number 1 is appreciating what we have. God created this world and proclaimed it was good. The world is full of intense beauty and pleasure, and it is all created by the Almighty for us. The universe is equipped with abundance of air and water and sunlight and wind and rain and trees, gardens, mountains, seas, the moon and the stars, fire, heat, and cold if you like that sort of thing, and dew. We have our limbs and our faculties. The food that we eat is usually pretty good depending on who's cooking it. It smells good even, mostly. Usually looks good too, has a nice color. And most of us don't even notice these things. How many of us, who went outside recently just to see the flowers? Anybody? It was a nice day, a little muggy, but it was a nice day. So every morning, the first thing that we should do in our modani, I want us to scream it out, yell it out. I mean, if the person next to you is still sleeping, like not that loud, but if you really, really put some effort into it, you can remind yourself that it's important and to be grateful that you are alive today. Then take a slow, deep breath and make an effort to focus on all that you have that is good. So the second step of this is every time, so to go a further step, so during the day, when you're not screaming out modani, think about the small profits you make. Any small thing to be grateful to Hashem, thank you. Say thank you to Hashem. And verbally express gratitude to those who are doing you a service, even if it's just mundane, or even if you're paying them for it. They're doing you a service. Okay, number 2, wishing others joy. When you wish others joy, you are connecting with your own joy. Just think about for a moment, if someone came up to you, just random, and said that they wish you joy and happiness for the rest of the year. Pretty good, right? I think that would be nice. Number 3, enjoy the present moment. We tend to go through the motions and only get excited about the things that are new. But take a deep breath and try to enjoy the moment. You can train your brain to be more tuned into living in the present. The next couple steps help us with that. Number 4, choose to focus on the good of the day. Okay? So some of us have also been trained to see the failings of a situation because they really stand out in your mind. And they also bring to you a lot of emotion. And try and make the choice to focus on happiness. Once you do this often, you will start to recognize that you do have that choice. And remember that every situation is an opportunity, and make happiness a priority in your mind, and it will be. Okay, so how do I do this? If you're in a situation and you feel you're already seeing the failings, how do we do this? Okay, this is called the power of next, or any word in your mind that will express to your brain, express to you that you can move forward. So it could be next, as Rabbi Rosenberg suggested earlier, it could be arg. It could be any word that helps you to move on to the next thought. And this is going to help you to reframe your thoughts. And this is, if your thoughts start going toward a negative path, just yell it out. You can do it silently. You don't have to scream it out to everybody. And that will help you to move on to a happier thought. Okay, number 5, act joyously. Yes, even if you're happy, unhappy, act happy. Studies have shown that people who practice smiling in the mirror actually start to feel happier. They do this with severely depressed individuals, to look at themselves in the mirror and to smile. And Rav Chaim Luzzatto, in his book Path of the Just, states, act with enthusiastic joy and you will actually experience it. This is fake it till you make it, guys. And as Rabbi Rosenberg pointed out, this is Charlie Chaplin's song, Smile. Okay, number 6, reevaluate or refrain. So reset your brain to view the event that is happening as a neutral one. Some people who've actually taken yoga have been taught that every pose is a neutral pose. There's no poses you like or dislike. We need to view every situation in life the same way. We don't like them or dislike them. They are just events that are happening in our lives for whatever reason. And this gives us an opportunity to think about what we can learn and grow from the situation. You're stuck on your emotion and the failings of that situation. It's very hard to see what we can grow from it. Okay, number 7. Remember that you have everything that you need and that what you may feel you are lacking may not be what you need. There's a famous parable about a fox who loved grapes, and he saw this beautiful orchard with tasty looking grapes, but he could not reach them. So he said to himself, perhaps the grapes were really sour, so I did not miss out on anything. There's a lot we can learn from that fox. Okay, number 8, the ultimate happiness formula. This is trust in Hashem and saying, Gam ze latovu, this is for the good. Trust gives you peace of mind and transforms you. And making that event not just a physical event, but a spiritual one. When you're worrying about something, tell yourself, trust in Hashem. Let's put it in perspective, okay? So say you're having financial difficulties, and all of a sudden, a wealthy, influential person comes over to you and says, don't worry, I've got you. Who's more wealthy and more influential than Hashem? Because he's got you. We can't know how events will turn out, but if we ultimately know that Hashem has our best interests in mind, we can live a consistently happy life. There are many ways to train your brain, and yes, this is something that takes hard work and training to reframe your mind towards happiness. And these are just some of the ways that have personally helped me. And I strongly recommend reading books from Rabbi. He's got a whole thing of works, different works. He's got some on marriage, on anger, on happiness. I hope to be reading more into them soon. And also the teachings of the Chavetz Chaim on faith and trust really solidify your faith and trust in Hashem. And he really beautifully, poetically helps you to see how beautiful the world is. And the first part of my shiur really was just kind of a condensation of that, and just a little taste. So if you want to delve deeper, I really recommend those books. And I want to thank you all for listening to me speak about something that I've been passionate about for many years, and that I hope that it has helped some of those who want to be helped. There's a famous joke about how many psychologists does it take to turn a light bulb, and it takes none. The light bulb has to want to turn itself. So this is just an inspiration, guys, to delve deeper. And I want to thank Rabbi Rosenberg for asking me to speak today, and for being my chavrusa and learning the book of the Chazon Ish with me. And I also want to thank my sister-in-law, Karen Kragen, for learning Rabbi Pliskin's book with me. I would like to thank my husband for putting up with me while I was sitting at the computer and typing this all out and doing dishes. And also for listening to this several times.
Yay, my goal.
Oh, yay. In fact, he's listening to it right now. Again. Ultimately, I would like to thank Kadosh Baruch Hu for the opportunity to teach this class, and so that I may better understand how to serve him with joy. I hope everyone has a beautiful Shavuot.
Thank you so much.
I don't think that was 30 minutes. Sorry.
Quite a bit less, but you have time for questions if anybody.
Oh, yes.